The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the HSS Discovery. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the large window, watching the endless space around them. His ship moved slowly through the dark, checking planets that might be good for humans. To live on someday, it was quiet work, but Jake liked it. After 20 years in the Space Navy, he enjoyed the calm days. "Captain, we're getting something strange," said Lisa Park from her station. She was the communications officer, a young woman who was very good at her job. She had been listening to space radio signals all morning, but now she looked worried. Jake walked over to her. "What kind of strange?" Lisa put her hand on her headset and listened carefully. "It's not from any human ship. The signal is weak, but it's definitely from someone trying to talk to us. The pattern is all wrong for our systems. Can you clean it up?" "I'm trying, sir. Give me a minute." Lisa worked on her computer, pressing buttons and turning dials. Slowly, the noise got quieter and a voice came through. It sounded scared and desperate, but the words were not in any language Jake had ever heard. "Sir, this sounds like a distress call," Lisa said. "Someone is in big trouble." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had heard many distress calls in his career, and they always meant someone was about to die. "How far away?" "About 3 days if we push the engines hard." "But sir, this isn't human. This is coming from something else." The bridge got very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at the captain. Meeting aliens was something humans had dreamed about for hundreds of years, but it had never happened before. Now it seemed like the first contact might be with someone asking for help. "Get Dr. Stevens up here," Jake said, "and send a message to Admiral Ross. Tell her we might have a situation." Dr. Carl Stevens arrived quickly. He was a thin man with gray hair who studied alien life, even though he had never seen any. He listened to the signal for a long time, making notes on his tablet. "It's definitely intelligent," he said finally. "The signal repeats every few minutes, which suggests they're broadcasting it over and over. That's what you do when you're in trouble and need help." "Can we understand what they're saying?" Dr. Stevens shook his head. "Not yet, but I can work on it. The computer might be able to find patterns in the language." Jake nodded. "Do it." "Lisa, any word from the Admiral?" "She's on her way here, sir. Her ship should arrive in about 6 hours." Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, aliens were calling for help. The question was whether humans should answer. They had no idea what kind of trouble these beings were in, or whether humans could even help them. Dr. Stevens worked for hours on the alien message. He played it over and over, looking for words that repeated or patterns that might mean something. Slowly, he began to understand pieces of it. "Captain, you need to hear this," he said. His face was very serious. "I think I know what they're saying." Jake and Lisa gathered around Dr. Stevens' computer. On the screen were symbols and sounds that meant nothing to them, but the doctor had been making progress. "The word that keeps repeating most often translates to something like help or save us," Dr. Stevens explained. "But there's another word that appears almost as much. It translates to death or dying." They're dying?" Lisa asked. "That's what it sounds like, but there's more. They mentioned something about attackers, enemies. Someone is trying to kill them." Jake felt cold. "They're at war?" "It seems that way. And from what I can tell, they're losing badly. The signal is getting weaker, which could mean their equipment is being destroyed or they're running out of power." "Admiral Helen Ross arrived?" As promised. She was a tough woman who had been in the Space Navy longer than anyone else. She listened to the alien message and Dr. Stevens' translation without saying a word. "How sure are you about this translation?" she asked. "About 70%, Admiral. But I'm getting better at it every hour." "The computer is learning their language patterns, and you think they're asking us for help?" "Yes, ma'am, and there's something else. They seem to know about us." Admiral Ross raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Dr. Stevens played another part of the message. "This word here appears to be their name for Earth, and this phrase translates to something like the strong ones from the Deathworld. I think they've been watching us." "Admiral, Deathworld?" Jake asked. "That's what they call Earth. From their perspective, our planet is incredibly dangerous. The weather, The animals, the diseases, everything about Earth is designed to kill living things. They think only the strongest and most dangerous species could survive there. Admiral Ross was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. So they're asking the Deathworld humans to help them fight their war? That's what it looks like. They think we're warriors because we survived on such a dangerous planet. Jake looked at the Admiral. What do we do? We don't even know who these people are, Admiral Ross said. Or who they're fighting. Getting involved in an alien war could be very dangerous for humanity. But if we don't help, they might all die, Lisa said quietly. The Admiral nodded. I know, that's what makes this so hard. She stood up and walked to the window. Dr. Stevens, how long do you think they have? Based on how the signal is getting weaker, maybe 3 days. 4 at the most. And how long would it take us to get there? 3 days if we push the engines to maximum. Admiral Ross took a deep breath. Send a message to all human ships in this sector. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention. Any ship that can fight should come to these coordinates as fast as possible. Jake was surprised. Admiral, are you sure about this? No, Captain, I'm not sure at all. But I've been in space for 30 years, and I've learned something important. When someone calls for help, you answer. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien. What matters is that they need help, and we can give it. She turned to face the crew. These aliens called us because they think we're strong. They think we're fighters. Maybe it's time to show the galaxy that they're right. Lisa looked up from her station. Admiral, I'm getting responses from other ships. They want to know. What's happening? Tell them the truth. Tell them we received a distress call from an alien species that's about to be destroyed. Tell them we're going to help and ask who wants to come with us. Jake smiled. He had served with Admiral Ross for 5 years, and he knew she would never abandon anyone who needed help. What should I tell the crew? Tell them to prepare for combat. We're going to war. The message from Admiral Ross spread through human space like wildfire. Within 2 hours, every ship captain in 3 sectors knew about the alien distress call. The response was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Captain Sam Turner was loading cargo on his freight ship when the message came through. He was a big man with rough hands who had been hauling supplies between planets for 15 years. His ship was not built for fighting, but it was fast and strong. Boss, you hear about this alien thing? Asked his engineer, a young man named Ben Clark. Sam nodded. Yeah, I heard. Some aliens are getting attacked and they want our help. What are we going to do? Sam looked at his cargo hold full of mining equipment. We're going to dump this stuff and head to the meeting point. Ben, can you make this old ship into something that can fight? Ben's eyes lit up. I can try, boss. We've got some heavy industrial lasers for the mining gear. I could mount them on the hull. Do it. We've got 12 hours to turn a cargo ship into a warship. Across the sector, similar conversations were happening. Commander Kate Williams was on a diplomatic mission to negotiate a trade agreement when she received the message. She immediately turned her ship around and headed for the meeting point. Ma'am, we're supposed to be at the peace talks tomorrow. Her second officer reminded her. Kate shook her head. The peace talks can wait. Some people are about to die, and they asked us for help. That's more important than any trade deal. On the mining station Deep Rock, Foreman Rick Hayes was having coffee when the message came through. He looked at his crew of 20 rough miners and made a decision that would change everything. Boys, we're shutting down the mine. Load everything. We can fight with onto the transport ship. We're going to war. The miners looked at each other with surprise, then started grinning. They had been digging rocks for months, and the chance to do something exciting was too good to pass up. Dr. Amy Foster was studying alien cultures at the university when Admiral Ross called her personally. Doctor, I need you to brief our commanders on what we might be facing. Amy had spent her whole career studying the possibility of alien life, but she never expected to help plan a war against them. Admiral, I don't know anything about these specific aliens. You know more than anyone else we have? Get to the meeting point as fast as you can. The response from civilian ships surprised everyone. Captain Dan Mitchell, commanding a military destroyer, watched in amazement as dozens of non-military vessels arrived at the meeting point. There were cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels, and even a few luxury yachts. "Sir, that pleasure yacht is asking for weapons," reported his communications officer. Don shook his head. "A yacht? What do they think they're going to do in a space battle?" The captain says he's got 12 people on board who all served in the military. They want to help." Within 18 hours, over 200 ships had gathered at the meeting. Point. Admiral Ross looked at the mixed fleet with both pride and worry. She had expected maybe 30 military vessels, but instead she had everything from massive battleships to small racing craft. Chief Engineer Sue Adams worked around the clock organizing the civilian ships. "We need to figure out what each ship can do," she told her team. "Some of these vessels have never been in a fight before. The biggest challenge was coordination. Military ships were used to working together, but civilian captains were independent people who made their own decisions. Commander Jim Parker, an experienced officer, was put in charge of organizing the civilian vessels. "Listen up," he told the civilian captains during a video conference. "This isn't going to be like the movies. Space combat is dangerous, and people are going to die. If anyone wants to leave, now is the time." Nobody left. Dr. Foster arrived on Admiral Ross's flagship with everything she knew about alien warfare. "The problem is, we don't know what we're facing," she explained to the senior commanders. "These aliens asking for help seem to be peaceful, but their attackers could be anything. What's your best guess?" asked Admiral Ross. "Based on the message, I think we're dealing with a species that sees conquest as natural. They probably never faced serious resistance before. That could be our advantage." Commander Tony Baker, a fighter pilot, raised his hand. "Doctor, what makes you think we can win?" "They might have better technology than us," Amy smiled. "Because they called us Deathworlders. They think Earth is so dangerous that only the strongest species could survive there. That means they see us as naturally tough and aggressive." "Are they right?" asked Captain Pete Johnson. "Think about it. Humans survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and every natural disaster Earth could throw at us. We've been fighting for survival since we first stood up. Most species probably evolved on easier worlds." Admiral Ross nodded. "So they think we're natural warriors." "Exactly, and they might be right. We're probably the only species crazy enough to answer a distress call from complete strangers and fly into a war zone to help them." The fleet spent the next day preparing. Military ships checked their weapons and shields. Civilian vessels were fitted with whatever weapons could be found. Mining ships mounted their industrial lasers. Cargo ships loaded up with missiles meant for construction work. Captain Ryan Kelly, commanding a patrol ship, watched a luxury liner getting fitted with torpedo tubes. "This is insane," he muttered to his crew. "We're about to fight aliens we've never seen to help other aliens we've never met." "Sir, maybe that's exactly why we'll win," said his weapons officer, a woman named Nancy Cross. "What kind of species drops everything to help strangers? The aliens probably can't imagine anyone being that crazy." Intercepted communications from the alien attackers proved Nancy right. The humans picked up enemy transmissions that had been translated by Dr. Stevens. "They're calling us soft, Deathworld primitives," he reported to Admiral Ross. "They think we're going to be easy to defeat." "Good," said the Admiral. "Let them think that. The longer they underestimate us, the better our chances." The enemy commander, someone called Vexstar, was bragging to his forces about how quickly he would crush the humans. "These primitives from the Death World think they can challenge us," his message said. "We will destroy them and then take their dangerous planet for ourselves." Admiral Ross called a final meeting of all ship commanders. The video screen showed faces from across human space, military officers, cargo captains, miners, diplomats, and even a few teenagers who had convinced their parents to let them help. "In 6 hours, we jump to the alien homeworld," she announced. "We don't know what we'll find there, but we know innocent people are dying. We're going to stop that." Captain Joe Davis, commanding a converted mining ship, spoke up. "Admiral, what? If we're outnumbered, then we'll be outnumbered. But I've learned something about humans over the years. We don't give up. We don't run away, and we don't let bullies win. She looked at each face on the screen. These aliens called us Deathworlders because they think our planet made us strong. Today, we're going to show them they were right. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people in front of humans. The fleet began moving toward the jump point. 200 ships of every size and type, crewed by humans who had never met the aliens they were going to save. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, and it was all volunteers. As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Ross sent one final message to all ships. Remember, we're not just fighting for aliens we've never met. We're fighting for the idea that good people help each other, no matter who they are or where they come from. Let's go show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their first alien war. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the alien system, and what they saw made everyone's blood run cold. The battle was already happening, and it was terrible. Lieutenant Tony Baker was piloting a small scout ship ahead of the main fleet. His job was to get close and see what they were facing. What he saw through his telescope made him feel sick. "Admiral, this is Baker," he said into his radio. "You need to see this." On the main screen of Admiral Ross's flagship, the image appeared. Massive enemy ships, each one bigger than a city, were firing bright red beams down at a beautiful crystal planet. The planet's surface sparkled like diamonds, but huge sections were now black and smoking. "Those are cities," whispered Dr. Foster, who was standing next to the Admiral. "They're destroying entire cities." Small ships were trying to escape from the planet, but enemy fighters were chasing them down and shooting them. The human crews watched in horror as refugee ships full of families were blown apart. "How many enemy ships?" Admiral Ross asked, her voice tight with anger. Tony Baker counted carefully. 47 big warships, maybe 100 smaller ones, and I can't even count the fighters. Admiral, they have us outnumbered 3-1. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a group of destroyers, spoke up on the radio. "Admiral, we can't let this continue. Those are civilians being murdered?" Admiral Ross looked at the battle happening in front of them. The enemy ships were huge and looked like they were designed to scare people. They had sharp edges and spikes all over them, painted in dark colors that made them look like monsters. All ships, this is Admiral Ross, were going to split into 3 groups. Group 1, led by Captain Mitchell, will attack the main enemy fleet. Group 2, led by Commander Adams, will help evacuate the civilians. Group 3, led by Colonel Parker, will try to capture the enemy command ship. "Ma'am, what about the numbers?" asked Captain Dan Mitchell. "We'll deal with the numbers. Remember, they think we're primitives. Let's show them what primitives can do." The human fleet moved forward. The enemy ships noticed them coming but didn't seem worried. Radio messages that Dr. Stevens translated showed the aliens were laughing at the humans. "The Deathworld primitives have arrived," said the enemy commander, Vextar. "This will be amusing. My warriors need some entertainment after this easy conquest." Captain Pete Johnson was commanding a destroyer called the Relentless. His ship was small compared to the enemy battleships, but he had an idea that was either brilliant or crazy. "All power to engines," he ordered. "We're going straight at that big one." "Sir, that's suicide," said his weapons officer, Nancy Cross. "Maybe, but I bet they've never seen anyone stupid enough to try it." The Relentless shot forward like a bullet, heading straight for an enemy battleship twice its size. The enemy ship turned its big guns toward the small human ship, but Pete was ready for that. "Now!" he shouted. The Relentless suddenly changed direction, spinning around the enemy ship too fast for the big guns to follow. Pete's ship fired all its weapons at the enemy's weapon systems, not trying to destroy the huge ship but trying to break its guns. It worked. The enemy battleship's main weapons exploded, leaving it helpless. Other human ships quickly finished it off. "What was that?" demanded Vextar over the radio. "That was a human," Dr. Stevens translated from the enemy communications. "They're not fighting like anyone else we've conquered." The enemy was right. Humans didn't fight like the other species the aliens had defeated. Where other species tried to protect themselves first, humans attacked immediately. Where other species retreated when outnumbered, humans got more aggressive. Commander Sue Adams was leading the evacuation group. Her ships were smaller and faster, designed to rescue people rather than fight. But when enemy fighters tried to stop them, the human rescue ships fought back hard. "We've got civilians trapped on the third moon," reported Captain Lisa Park, who was now commanding a converted passenger liner. "Enemy fighters are shooting at the escape pods." "Then we go through the fighters," Sue said simply. The human rescue ships charged straight at the enemy fighters. It was not what the aliens expected. Usually, rescue ships ran away from combat. But these humans were fighting to save people they had never met. Captain Rick Hayes, the former miner, was using his converted mining ship to ram enemy fighters. "This is for shooting at children," he yelled as his ship's mining drill tore through an enemy fighter. The aliens were getting confused. Their usual tactics were not working. They had overwhelming numbers and better weapons, but the humans were not acting like they were supposed to. "Why do they keep attacking?" Vexstar asked his officers. "They must see they cannot win." "Sir, I think they don't care if they win," one of his officers replied. "They just want to save the Crystal people." Colonel Jim Parker was leading the attack on the command ship. His job was the most dangerous because he had to get close enough to board the enemy vessel. "Remember, we need their commander alive," he told his boarding teams. "We need to know what we're really fighting." The human Marines were soldiers who had trained for years to fight in space, but they had never fought aliens before. They had no idea what to expect. The boarding attack was brutal. The enemy soldiers were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never fought anyone who refused to give up. Human Marines kept fighting even when they were hurt, kept attacking even when they were outnumbered. "These Deathworld creatures are insane," an enemy soldier reported. "They fight like wild animals." "No," said an old human sergeant named Mike Taylor. "We fight like humans." The first battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the humans had achieved something impossible. They had damaged the enemy fleet and rescued thousands of alien civilians, but the cost was high. "Casualty report," Admiral Ross asked quietly. 12 ships lost, 37 damaged," reported her aide. "But we saved over 10,000 civilians." The enemy fleet was pulling back, but they were not retreating. They were regrouping for a bigger attack. "Admiral, we're getting a transmission." "From the planet," said Dr. Stevens. "I think it's from the Crystal people." The message was in the same language they had heard in the distress call, but now Dr. Stevens could understand most of it. "They're saying thank you," he translated. "They're saying they knew the Deathworld people would come. They're saying they have been watching us and hoping we would be their friends." "Ask them if they can fight," Admiral Ross said. Dr. Stevens sent the message and waited for a reply. When it came, he smiled. "They say they are not warriors, but they will learn. They say if the Deathworld people can fight for strangers, then they can fight for their own families." Vexstar's voice came over the radio, angry and confused. "This is not possible. Deathworld primitives cannot defeat us. We are the masters of this galaxy." Admiral Ross picked up the radio. "This is Admiral Ross of the human fleet. You made a big mistake when you attacked innocent people. Now you get to learn what happens when you make humans angry." "Humans? You're nothing but primitive savages from a death world." "That's right. We're savages from a death world. And we're very good at surviving." The enemy fleet was forming up for another attack, but now they were taking the humans seriously. The easy conquest had become a real war. "All ships, prepare for round 2, Admiral Ross announced. "They know we're here now. Let's show them what Deathworlders do when someone hurts innocent people." The human fleet moved forward again, ready to fight an enemy that outnumbered them 3-1. But the humans were not worried about the numbers anymore. They had learned something important in the first battle. They were not just fighting for the Crystal people. They were fighting for the idea that bullies should not win. And humans never gave up when they were fighting for something that mattered. The second battle was different from the first. The enemy was no longer laughing at the humans. Vexstar had realized he was fighting something he had never seen before, and he was angry about it. "Bring out the heavy weapons," he ordered his fleet. "I want these Deathworld primitives destroyed completely." The enemy ships deployed weapons they had not used in the first battle. Massive energy cannons that could melt asteroids. Missiles that could track targets across an entire star system. Shield generators that made their ships almost impossible to damage. Admiral Ross watched the enemy preparations from her flagship. "They're not playing games anymore," she said to her officers. "Neither are we," replied Captain Jake Morrison. "We've learned some things too." The humans had been busy during the break between battles. Engineer Nancy Cross and her team had been working on captured enemy equipment, trying to understand how it worked. "I think I figured out their shield system," she reported to Admiral Ross. "It's more advanced than ours, but it has a weakness. If we can overload it with enough different types of energy at the same time, it will fail. What do you need?" "Every ship in the fleet to fire at the same target at exactly the same time. Different weapons, different energy types. They're computers. Can't adapt fast enough to handle that much variety." It was a dangerous plan because it meant the entire human fleet would have to work together perfectly. One mistake and they would all be destroyed. Dr. Mike Taylor, the scientist who had been studying the crystal people, had good news too. "The aliens we're helping have been sharing their technology with us. They can't fight, but they can build. Things we never imagined. What kind of things? Weapons that can punch through any armor. Engines that can make our ships 3 times faster, and something else." He paused. "They built us a translator that works in real time. We can understand everything the enemy says now." Admiral Ross smiled. "Good, I want to know what they're thinking when we beat them." The crystal people had been rescued by the humans, but they were not sitting around doing nothing. They were using their advanced technology to help their rescuers. Crystal ships that had been built for science were quickly changed into support vessels for the human fleet. "We cannot fight like you do," explained one of the crystal people to Captain Dan Mitchell, "but we can fix your ships very quickly. We can give you fuel and ammunition. We can help you in other ways." "Why are you helping us?" Don asked. "You barely know us." "Because you came when we called for help? Because you are fighting for us even though we are strangers, because you are good people." The enemy fleet was much bigger now. Vexstar had called for reinforcements, and more ships kept arriving. The humans were now outnumbered 5-1, but they were not giving up. "Sir, we're getting reports from our scout ships," reported Lieutenant Tony Baker. "The enemy has something big coming. Really big." On the main screen, a new image appeared. It was a ship unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons, and it was heading straight for the Crystal People's planet. "What is that thing?" asked Commander. Sue Adams. Dr. Stevens had been listening to enemy communications. "It's called a world breaker," he translated. "It's designed to destroy entire planets. They're going to use it to crack the crystal world like an egg." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. If the enemy used that weapon, billions of crystal people would die. And if the humans lost this battle, the enemy would probably use the same weapon on Earth. "How long until it's in range?" Admiral Ross asked. 4 hours, Tony Baker replied. "Then we have 4 hours to stop it." The plan was simple and completely insane. The human fleet would attack the world breaker directly, trying to destroy it before it could fire. But the massive weapon was protected by hundreds of enemy ships, and getting close enough to damage it would be suicide. "I'll lead the attack," volunteered Captain Pete Johnson. "The Relentless is fast enough to get through their defenses." "I'm coming with you," said Captain Rick Hayes. "My mining ship has the biggest drill in the fleet. If we can get close enough, I can punch a hole in that thing." "Count me in too," added Captain Lisa Park. "Someone needs to cover you while you're drilling." More and more ship captains volunteered for the suicide mission. Soon, almost the entire human fleet was ready to attack the world breaker. "You don't all have to do this," Admiral Ross said. "A few ships could probably get through." Admiral? With respect, yes we do, replied Captain Joe Davis. Those crystal people asked us for help. We're not going to let them down now. The attack on the World Breaker was the most desperate thing the humans had ever attempted. The giant weapon was surrounded by enemy ships, all firing at the approaching human fleet. Ships were being destroyed every few seconds. Captain Pete Johnson's destroyer was hit by 3 enemy missiles at once. His ship was burning and falling apart, but he kept flying toward the World Breaker. "Sir, we're losing power," reported his weapons officer. "I don't need power," Pete replied. "I just need to get close enough to ram that thing." The Relentless smashed into the World Breaker's shield generator, exploding in a ball of fire. The massive weapons shields flickered and went down. "Now!" shouted Rick Hayes. His mining ship, the Deep Digger, shot forward with its giant drill. Spinning enemy fire hit his ship over and over, but he kept going. The drill bit into the World Breaker's hull, punching deeper and deeper. "I'm in," Rick reported. "I can see their main reactor." One more push and the Deep Digger exploded, taking a huge chunk of the World Breaker with it. But the weapon was still working, still charging up to destroy the Crystal World. "All ships, concentrate fire on the breach," Admiral Ross ordered. "Everything we've got?" The remaining human ships poured all their weapons into the hole Rick had made. Missiles, lasers, particle beams, everything they had. The World Breaker was taking massive damage, but it was still trying to fire. 60 seconds until it fires, reported Dr. Stevens. "We're not going to make it," said Captain Dan Mitchell. That was when the Crystal people surprised everyone. Their ships, which had been staying safely away from the battle, suddenly accelerated toward the World Breaker. "What are they doing?" asked Admiral Ross. "They're going to ram it," Dr. Taylor realized. "They're going to sacrifice themselves too. Save their world." The Crystal ships were not built for fighting, but they were built to last. They smashed into the World Breaker one after another, each impact doing more damage to the giant weapon. "No," Admiral Ross said. "We came here to save them, not to watch them die for us." "Admiral, look," said Commander Sue Adams. On the screen, the World Breaker was breaking apart. The combined attack from the humans and the Crystal people had been too much. The giant weapon exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from the other side of the star system. "The World Breaker is destroyed," reported Tony Baker. "It's gone." The enemy fleet was in chaos. They had never lost a World Breaker before. It was supposed to be impossible to destroy. But the humans had done it, with help from the people they had come to save. "This is not possible," Vexstar said over the radio. "The World Breaker cannot be destroyed by primitives." "We told you," Admiral Ross replied. "We're not just primitives, we're humans. And we don't give up." The battle was turning. The enemy had lost their ultimate weapon, and they were starting to panic. Ships that had been advancing were now retreating. The humans pressed their advantage. "All ships pursue course," Admiral Ross ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The human fleet, supported by the remaining Crystal ships, chased the enemy across the star system. What had started as a hopeless battle against overwhelming odds had become a victory for the good guys, but the war was not over yet. There were still enemy ships to fight, and Vexstar was still alive. The final battle was still to come. "Damage report," Admiral Ross asked. "We've lost 40 ships," her aide reported. "But we saved the Crystal World. And we destroyed their ultimate weapon." "Good, now let's finish this." The human fleet moved forward, ready for the final battle. They had proven that numbers were not everything. They had proven that fighting for others made you stronger. And they had proven that humans never gave up when innocent people needed help. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made humans angry. The final battle took place in the space around the Crystal World. The enemy fleet was running out of places to hide, and Vexstar was getting desperate. He had never lost a battle before, and he could not understand how primitive humans were. Beating his superior forces, "All ships, attack the human flagship," he ordered. "Kill their leader, and they will surrender." But Vexstar still did not understand humans. When Admiral Ross's ship came under heavy attack, the entire human fleet moved to protect her. They formed a wall of ships around their commander, each one willing to die to keep her safe. "Sir, we should retreat," one of Vextar's officers suggested. "We have lost too many ships." "No," Vextar shouted. "We are the masters of this galaxy. We do not run from Deathworld primitives." The Crystal people had been learning from the humans. Their ships were now fitted with human weapons, and their crews had been practicing human fighting tactics. They were still not natural warriors, but they were getting better. "We fight for our families," one Crystal captain said over the radio. "We fight for our world. We fight like the humans taught us." Captain Ryan Kelly was leading the final assault on Vextar's flagship. His ship had been damaged in the earlier battles, but it was still fighting. His crew was tired, but they were not giving up. "All right, people," Ryan said to his bridge crew. "This is it. One more push and we win this thing." "Sir, that flagship is huge," said his weapons officer. "Our guns might not be able to penetrate its armor." "Then we'll get inside and fight them face to face." The boarding attack on the enemy flagship was the most dangerous part of the entire battle. Ryan led a team of 30 human Marines through the enemy ship's corridors, fighting alien soldiers who were bigger and stronger than humans, but the enemy had a problem. They had never fought humans in close combat before. They did not know that humans had evolved fighting wild animals, surviving in caves and battling each other for thousands of years. Human soldiers were used to fighting when they were scared, hurt, and outnumbered. "These creatures are insane," an enemy soldier reported to his commander. "They keep fighting even when they are bleeding. They keep attacking even when they should be dead." Sergeant Mike Taylor, who had been a miner before the war, was fighting with a rifle in one hand and a mining tool in the other. "That's because we're from Earth," he told the alien soldier before knocking him unconscious, "and Earth teaches you to never give up." The battle through the enemy ship was brutal. Human Marines fought through corridor after corridor, getting closer to the command bridge where Vextar was hiding. Many humans were hurt, but they kept going. "Bridges ahead," reported Ryan Kelly. "One more door." The final fight was between Ryan and Vextar himself. The enemy commander was twice as big as Ryan, with 4 arms and natural armor. But Ryan had something the alien did not have: experience fighting for survival. "You cannot defeat me," Vextar said in broken English. "I am the master of 17 worlds." "Yeah, well, I'm from Earth," Ryan replied, "and we eat guys like you for breakfast." The fight was short but intense. Vextar was stronger, but Ryan was faster and smarter. When it was over, the enemy commander was tied up and his ship was under human control. "This is Captain Kelly to all ships," Ryan announced. "The enemy commander is captured. Repeat, we have their leader." The effect on the enemy fleet was immediate. Without their commander, the alien ships stopped fighting and started surrendering. Some tried to run away, but the human and crystal ships chased them down. "All enemy ships, this is Admiral Ross," she broadcast. "Your commander has been captured. You can surrender now or be destroyed, your choice." Most of the enemy ships chose to surrender. They had seen what humans could do, and they did not want to fight anymore. In the command room of the captured flagship, Vextar sat tied up, staring at the humans who had beaten him. "This is impossible," he kept saying. "Primitive Deathworld creatures cannot defeat a superior species." "You keep saying that," Admiral Ross said when she arrived. "But here we are. Your fleet is destroyed, your ultimate weapon is gone, and you are our prisoner." "How?" Vextar asked. "How did you defeat us?" Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward. "Because you made a mistake. You thought being from a dangerous world made us weak? But it made us strong. You thought we would only fight for ourselves. But we fight for others too." "We don't understand, Vextar." "Sod, no, you don't," Admiral Ross agreed. "You think might makes right. You think the strong should rule the weak. But we think the strong should protect the weak. That's the difference between us." News of the victory spread quickly through space. The Crystal people sent messages of thanks to every human ship. Other alien species that had heard about the battle started sending their own messages. Admiral, we're getting communications from all over the galaxy, reported Dr. Stevens. There are other species that want to meet us. They want to know about the humans who saved the Crystal People. What are they saying? They're saying they've been waiting for someone to stand up to bullies like Vexstar. They want to know if we'll help them too. Admiral Ross looked at the messages coming in from dozens of different worlds. Some were asking for help against other conquerors. Some were offering to share technology. Some just wanted to be friends with the species that had traveled across space to help strangers. What do you think? She asked her officers. I think we just became the galaxy's police force. Captain Jake Morrison said with a smile. The Crystal People offered to share their advanced technology with humanity. They had machines that could build anything, computers that could solve any problem, and medical equipment that could heal any injury. We don't need payment, their leader explained. You saved our entire species. This is the least we can do. But the humans were more interested in something else. We want to be your friends, Admiral Ross said. We want to work together to help other people who need it. Friends? The Crystal leader repeated. Yes, we would like that very much. The victory celebration lasted for days. Human ships and crystal ships flew together around the saved world. The two species shared food, stories, and plans for the future. Dr. Foster was busy writing reports about everything that had happened. This changes everything, she told Admiral Ross. We're not alone in the galaxy anymore. And we've proven that humans can work with other species. What about Earth? Admiral Ross asked. What will they think about all this? They'll be proud, Dr. Foster replied. We showed the galaxy that humans are the kind of people who answer distress calls from complete strangers. That's something to be proud of. Captain Ryan Kelly was talking to some of the Crystal People about their technology. You could have used this to build weapons, he said. Why didn't you? Because we are not warriors, the Crystal being replied. We create things. We don't destroy them. That is why we needed you. You know how to fight, but you also know what is worth fighting for? And what's that? Each other. All of us. The idea that good people should help each other, no matter what species they are. The human fleet prepared to return home, but they were not the same people who had left. They had fought their first war against aliens, saved an entire species, and made new friends among the stars. So what happens now? Asked Lieutenant Tony Baker. Now we go home and tell everyone what we learned, Admiral Ross replied. We learned that there are good people and bad people everywhere in the galaxy. We learned that being from a dangerous world makes us strong, not weak. And we learned that humans are the kind of people who help others even when it's dangerous. As the human fleet prepared to jump back to Earth, they received one final message from the Crystal People. Dr. Stevens translated it for everyone to hear. Thank you, friends from the Death World. You have shown us that the strongest people are not those who can destroy the most, but those who will risk everything to protect others. If you ever need help, we will come. If others need help, we will help you give it. This is our promise to you. The human ships jumped to hyperspace, heading home. But they all knew this was not the end. It was the beginning. The galaxy had learned that Earth was not just another world with dangerous creatures. It was the home of humans, and humans were the kind of people who answered distress calls from strangers. Word would spread through the galaxy that if you were in trouble, if bullies were threatening you, if you needed help and had nowhere else to turn, you could send a message to the Death World. You could call for help from the humans, and they would come. The war was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps into a galaxy full of friends waiting to be made and people waiting to be helped. The Deathworlders had found their place among the stars.